Hey, welcome to the video on how to make a graph using Excel. And you're probably watching this video after completing your Half-Life lab in your Science 10 class. And if you have a PC, right, or you've got a Windows operating system, this is probably the better video to watch, right? You've also have access to a Mac video. Excel is really similar on both of them, so if you know one, right, you can figure the other one out pretty easily. But if you're starting off from scratch, right, this is for all you PC users out there. So here's your lab, right? Looks familiar. You got your data, all that stuff. And at the end, right, there is a criteria for graphing. So you are wanting to strive, I'm assuming, for the exemplary column. So take a peek at that, right? Stuff that you've heard in math class before, in science classes before. You need to have titles on your axes, good scales, lines, all that sort of stuff. Lines that best fit, straight line if it's linear. So take just a double peek to see what your specific teacher, right, they're going to focus on and they're going to look for, right? Because you've probably figured it out. Every teacher kind of has their own thing, right? Their own specific criteria that they've set. So take a peek. Once you got that settled, you can open up to your Excel file. Now, Excel is the little green thing, right? It looks kind of like Windows, right? Your Word documents. Or your PowerPoint. So click on that wherever you have it in your computer. And we're going to do data that looks at year versus people per square mile. Right, so I'm not going to graph your radioactivity data for you. You have to do that on your own, but I'm going to show you how to do it through this example. Now the easiest way is to input the numbers manually. It might seem tedious, but really it's probably not too bad. So once you have all your columns completed, right, this is saying that in 1790, you have 4.5 people per square mile. And jumping all the way to the year 2000, where you have 80 people a square mile, right? Quite an increase here. So once you got your data entered, you can highlight the two columns that you want to graph. And you're going to look for the chart section, right, on your Excel file. Whoops, sorry. Oh, there are my nieces. Let's do that again. So you've highlighted what you want to graph. And in the chart section, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Because you're making a graph, not a chart. But Excel can call it what they like. Hit on the scatter, and you can see there's all sorts of types of graphs you can make. So feel free to play around, right? Just hit the back button when you want to go back to where you were. We're going to go for a scatter graph today, and look at that. So quick and easy. So I'm just going to make it nice and big so you can see what you're doing. Great, and ooh, I got some color options. Let's go green. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of this legend here. Now, it'd be great if you had a couple different things on one graph, but we're only looking at one set of data, so no need for legend. Hit the delete button, and our graph grew. Awesome. This isn't quite gonna cut it if you want to hit that exemplary column on the rubric. So one of the things we need is to put titles on these axes. So again, right, click on, if you're not quite sure, just click on some of the buttons, right? But chances are, in my particular version of Excel, right, that chart tools is highlighted, so that's where all the good stuff's going to be. So scanning along here, axes titles. I'm going to click on that. So I want the primary horizontal axis. And we want title below. Click on that, and look at that. It's popped up here ready for me. So, just joking, here we go. So I'm going to click on this, and right, our x-axis represents the years. So I'm going to say time and my units in years. Right, some version of that. So that takes care of that one. Let's do our vertical. I think this is cool because there's like so many different ways you can display it, right? If you want to do it like that, or maybe you want to do it rotated. Rotated is a little bit more standard what you see. And this is going to be your, whoops, let's click on here. This is going to be your, close please, your population. I wonder if I write it up here if it works. Population, yep, look at that. Right, so you can enter in the top, right, or you can enter down here. Population and our units are in people per square mile. There we go. Enter. So we've got our titles with our units. Let's fix up this main title. All right, so we can click on that. And people per square mile. Let's be a little bit more specific, right? We know more, so why not convey that in our title? People per square mile for the years of 1790 to 2000. Yay! Awesome. Good to go. Alright, not quite done. Grid lines. Let's put in some grid lines. So right now, you have the horizontal grid lines. Click on the vertical. Right? It's a little bit easier to read. Right? You can see exactly where those data points cross. This looks good, not great. If I wanted to read like this data point, for example, right, it's kind of hard to see where that lines up on the X. Like maybe 1920, not quite sure. So I'm going to make my X-axis a little bit more specific. So if you double click on that, right, or there are icons on the top, you can kind of mess around and make it your range of your X and Y a bit more specific. So what I can do here, this is going to 1750. Now, my data doesn't start till 1790, so I'm going to change that. All right, why am I allotting time to stuff I don't have numbers for? Same thing down here. Let's make that to only the year 2000. All right, looks good. Close that. All right, so I'm narrowing it a little bit more. All right, so I'm getting a bit of better idea, but what I want to do, if you right click on here, that's format axis. Oh, I already did that part. Wait, I want to, one second, I'm going to pause. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Great, just messed around with some stuff to figure out what I need to do, and I was already in that section. Right, so if I want to format, this x-axis here, I'll go to Format Axis, click on that, and I looked at the range, but I want to actually do the major units. So right now it's set on 50, right? You're going up by 50s on your scale. I want to make that maybe 20s. It'll be easier to read. So see what happens when I do that. Wow. Right, way easier. So you can tell that the dot in the middle would be the tens, right? So if I wanted to make that tens, I could, right? But right now, you can get a lot more from that graph than what we did originally. Okay, so we are almost done. The next thing you need to do is connect the dots. Now, if we connected the dots like you were going like dot to dot to dot, like you're tracing something, you wouldn't get the general idea of the pattern. Right now, in real life, things don't always come in a nice straight line. So we're going to do a curve of best fit. So to figure that out, right, you're going to find the trend line. Right? So we're looking at overall trends. Right? Now the trend in this data is that it's exponential. You forget what that word's called, right? They've got those little pictures, right? There's your linear and all that sort of stuff. So this is an exponential trend. So when I click on that, look at that. Isn't that awesome? They did the curve of best fit for me. Right? So if you were in my class, we were kind of freestyling them by hand, which is really hard to do. But this wonderful program just did it for you. So there's your curve of best fit. So I think that our graph is pretty much done. Right? Hopefully you've been saving this whole time. So I'm going to do, okay, right, a little bit of a save as, copy the population density, save it to my desktop, nice and easy. There we go. All right, so you've got that somewhere. And then I'm going to take this graph and copy it into my Word document when I hand in my lab. So right, you can click on it same way that you copy anything in a Word document, right? Copy, or you can use your shortcuts. Go into Word and let's do a Control V. Right, bam! Look at that graph. It looks so good. Right, if you want to make things bigger in here, you can. Right, just drag on the corners. Right, you can edit your titles like this. Whoops, let's unclick that. Right, my title is looking a little too big here. Right, so you can mess around with those, see what you can do. Yeah, format. There we go. Cool. Right, so again, right, do what you need to do to make it look nice and pretty. Don't forget to save your data, and if you have any questions, right, you know you can always come ask. Right, good luck.